What's funny is not even like great grandparents, like it's not family at all. My mom really liked the name. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, my siblings with that.
So the exhaust fan is supposed to be in the with the oven. Where's the exhaust fan? With the freezer. Okay. Okay, maybe we'll get two smaller ones. Good job. Yeah. At least we can try. See what happens. Okay, Blin Heather. I'm gonna have to call you later because we have the class now teaching. 8:30 I teach. Yeah, give me another. Yeah. Mazel tov for your brother's ankle bris. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Good morning, everybody. Good morning for the invisible people on the screen, or maybe not on the screen. I don't know. So we did until Ois Daled yesterday, but we skipped the brackets. We'll go back to the brackets now. So what he said in this Ois was that just like Torah and mitzvahs, Torah is higher than mitzvahs because it's more spiritual, it's intellectual. Mitzvahs are lower because it's physical. Nevertheless, the shoresh, the root of mitzvahs, is Hashem's ratzon, and the root of Torah is Hashem's chokhmah, and ratzon is higher than chokhmah. The root of ratzon is from Orin Sof, from Keser, which is much higher as the infinite, versus chokhmah, which is finite. And so too, when it comes to the neshama and the guf, the neshama is higher than the guf, because after all, the neshama is ruchnius. It's not physical, it's not limited. And the guf is something which is limited, and it's physical, tangible. So how could you even think otherwise that the neshama is higher than the guf? And that's true. But the sheirish, the source of the guf, is from a higher place than the neshama. And like I explained yesterday, that when we say the sheirish, it's not something of the past. That means that's really deep inside its truer, deeper dimension. I mean, to give an example, what would be an example of something that one is higher or lower than the other, but the root is, the source is higher? Very often we think of the example of a rock. You take a rock and you throw it. You take one rock and you throw it and it lands 10 yards away. Then you take another rock and you throw it and it lands 150 yards away. So which rock is further from me? The one that's 150 yards or the one that's 10 yards? Obviously the one that's 150, the one that's 10 is so much closer to me. But which rock did I invest more depth of my energy? The answer is the one that I threw 150 yards, not the one that I threw 10 yards. So it means the source comes from a deeper place. But in actuality, this rock is further. But when you talk about a rock, so I invested more energy to do it. It doesn't make any difference in the rock. But when you talk about the ruchnius and you say the source of something is from a very high place, the source is not separate in space. The source is not separate in time. So what is the source? The source really means the pneumius, the deeper and deepest and the essence and dimension, essential dimension of this, its truest identity, so to speak. And therefore, when we say that the source of mitzvahs is higher than Torah, that defines mitzvahs, that mitzvahs in a way are higher than Torah. On the other hand, in terms of what we experience consciously, Torah is higher than mitzvahs because Torah is ruchnius and mitzvahs are gashmis. So let's start again from page 3, the paragraph. This time we'll do the bracket where it says "Umizeh muvan," and from this it's understood. That last paragraph. Thank you. We'll start with the bracha. Umizeh muvan. From this it's understood, just like in reference to, just like we said, this in reference to Torah mitzvahs. The same principle applies to the neshama and the guf of a person. Because we said before, Zeis Teres Adam, that neshama and guf is like Torah and mitzvahs. Although the chayis of the guf comes from the neshama, so obviously the neshama is greater than the guf. The neshama is the source of energy, the source of life, and the guf in its own right has no life. But nevertheless, Shoresh HaGuf, the source and the root of the guf, the Ma'ila Shoresh HaNeshama, is higher than the source of the neshama. Now we'll do the bracket, and it's explained in another place. In the footnote 26, it makes reference to another mimer of the Rebbe, where the Rebbe explains this more in depth. What is it? This part is a little bit, the reason why I skipped it, because it's a little bit difficult to follow. But again, as usual, we'll try our best. The love of Hashem to Bnei Yisrael, the unconditional love. And the bond that Hashem has with Bnei Yisrael is mitzad neshama. It says, Bonim atem lahavaya lekechem. You are children to Hashem. And we all remember what it says in Tanya, right in the beginning. Apparently this is one of the most important principles to become familiar with as soon as you start learning Chassidus. That's why the Alter Rebbe put it right in the beginning of chapter 2. That just like a child comes from the brain of the father, that's how the neshama of a yid comes from Chochmah of Hashem. So being that we come from Hashem's Chochmah, we're like children. And the love that Hashem has for us, the bond between Hashem and us, is a natural bond. Just like the love of a father to his child, because the child is the father and the father is the child. They're all one essence. But this means this means that the root of this love, in other words, the cause of this love, it's coming from a place that the qualities of the one that's being loved have importance. And because this child is my child and connected to me, that's why I love the child. But eina ma'atzmus mamish. It's not connected to the atzmus, to the absolute essence. But the love that Hashem has to Yidden, mitzad haguf, the love that Hashem has to the Yid, as the neshama is in the guf itself, is loy mitzad mailas haguf, gam loy hamayla, the ben, maila atzmi is not even the maila of being a ben, ela mitzad zeh shekadosh baruch hu bocher b'haguf the Yisrael, b'bchira chavshis, shebchira zu im atzmusei. Anytime we get to the subject of b'chira, we know that it's a complicated subject, very hard to understand all its details. But like I said, we'll try to explain it at least a little bit. So in davening, we say these words, Ubanu b'charta mikolam v'loshen. You chose us from amongst all the nations and all the languages. And of course, these words come from Chumash. And Chumash, in a number of places, it says that Hashem chose Bnei Yisrael. And Hashem says, I chose you from amongst the nations. So the word I chose, the way it's translated loosely, is the way we understand it. You know, I chose to buy this house, I chose to buy this coat, I chose to buy this furniture. We use that term all the time. But the true and absolute definition of choosing means that it was my choice. And nobody is forcing me to make the choice. So if a person is in a government, and that government is a dictatorship, and they force people to do things, it's not my choice. My government is choosing me. If I'm in a place of work and my employer is forcing me to do something one way or another, again, it's not me, it's my employer. What about if a person has nobody outside of him that's forcing him to do anything in any way, but there's something in me that's compelling me to choose this over that? Like we asked the question yesterday, the question Haba brought up. So why do some people like this and some people like that? Why does a person say, I choose to live in a place which is not a city? Another place says, I love living in the city. I choose to live in the city. I always remember this set of parents that came to visit their daughter here. They were from San Diego. And the mother was born in San Diego. The father actually grew up in the Bronx here in New York. So the father said, I love this place. The honking and the traffic and the noise and this and that. And the mother is saying, I can't wait to get out of here. This is it's like clutter in the head and the mind that way back to where I came from. So some people love the outdoors, some people love the indoors, some people love quiet, some people love noise. And where does this all come from? We said yesterday, there's something in me, whether it's because my chemistry is chesed or gvura, chesed shebe gvura, gvura shebe chesed, and if there are 8 billion people in the world, there are 8 billion different kinds of chemistries in people. And that's, in a sense, that's what compels me to choose one way over the other. If that's the case, that's also not free choice. In fact, if I would understand to the most accurate, most precise way what the other person's pure nature is, I can tell you before they choose what they're going to choose. So there's something in me that's pushing me and makes me inclined in this direction rather than that direction. So again, it's not free choice. So Chassidus says the following, that if you choose something because it has a certain quality, that's not free choice, because it's almost as if you have no choice. I want the advantage of the outdoors, and this place is outdoors, and this place is indoors. So of course I can only have one choice. This is what I want. A person wants to work a certain kind of a job. He wants to be a doctor, wants to be a lawyer, wants to be a contractor, wants to be an architect. There's something in me. So it's not that I have a choice. That's the kind of thing that I'm attracted to, and that's why I want it. So free choice means two things. It's coming from a place that has no inclination in any direction whatsoever. And it's to something that has no quality whatsoever. And then the only reason why I choose it, because I chose to choose, that's all. If you understand what I'm talking about. I hardly do, but. In other words, it's not a certain detail or quality in my personality that's the reason why I'm choosing, because that's not the reason. This thing has no quality. I'm choosing it just because this is what I chose. Now, again, a person chooses something randomly. Usually it's something which makes no sense and has no meaning to it. It's nothing. When we talk about Hashem, so if Hashem chooses something, take, for example, a person chooses and loves a person who's into music. They're musical, and they love this person because he's a big musician. They love this person because he's an artist and I'm an artist. I love this person because I'm a dancer and they're a dancer, and I love the way they dance. That means that there's a certain detail in me that's attracted to the detail in that person. It's not coming from my essence. If we say that Hashem chose us and loves us, even if it's unconditionally, because our neshama comes from him, that means there's a sort of a basis for that choice that Hashem couldn't have chosen anyone else, because the neshamas of Yidden, they come from Hashem's essence. So he chose us because we're connected to him. So it's not the absolute free choice. When Hashem chooses the guf of a Yid, the guf is not something which is found inside Hashem's essence. And the guf is something has no special qualities. The guf is just a guf, like any other guf. It's a physical body. And nevertheless, Hashem chooses it. That choice comes from the essence of Hashem that has no inclination. And the only reason why he chose it, because he chose to choose this guf. That's the absolute bechira. Yeah.
But then you said the guf comes from a very high source.
That's the high source. It comes from the essence of Hashem. That's what I said with a person. If you ask a child, why did you choose this? I don't know, that's what I wanted. There's no meaning to it. Same with an adult. If I would choose something and there's no reason, as I say in English, there's no rhyme or reason why I chose it. Just chose it randomly. There's no quality to it. But when we say that Hashem chose, and everything Hashem does has something, but it's not reason, it's not logic, it's coming from a place of his essence. So that means the source of the guf is actually from the highest place, even higher than the neshama.
Okay, I always thought I understood this until now. So
Thank you.
If it's from, no, it's just a new point. Like if it's from the essence that and we're the children, then it's not a choice either. We're chosen because we're the essence.
A certain way, not a choice. But if I say there are two kinds of neshamas, there's one neshama that's rooted in Hashem's essence. Another neshama that's not.
That's not a choice.
Then it's not a choice. That's what he's saying here.
Yeah.
It's still unconditional love because of the essence, but I can't say that this is the absolute bechira because it's coming from a place that there's already a connection between us two.
Right. So how is it? Oh, choice.
So that's why the real ultimate choice is more the guf than the neshama.
Well, it's not from the essence.
Right. No, the choice in the guf is from the essence. Because I can't say the neshama, I can say it was inside Hashem's essence. I can't say that about a physical body. Right. It's not as simple because actually there's a footnote here where the Rebbe asks, but isn't the guf also rooted in Hashem? Even the neshama is also rooted in Hashem's essence. And actually the footnote ends off saying we still have to look into it. Obviously, it's not 100% so clear.
But in terms of people, our choice, I always was told that we have choice in good, let's say this is right. But really, is that really choice? Because like you choose to think of the world and then somebody comes into this world, it's not really a choice.
No, so the truth is the same thing. When I choose, in a certain sense, I'm also choosing because there's already, my personality is already defined in a certain way, and that's what makes me choose more the chesed, the gvura, whichever other way. So when we say that there's free choice, it's also because it has to come from our essence, and our essence is connected to Hashem's essence. So that's why only Yidden have that free choice. But the truth is, free choice, the way it's translated loosely, yeah, we all have it. But free choice, the way it's translated here, like with the absolute freedom, there's absolutely nothing. It's just choice. That has to come only from the essence of the neshama or the essence of Hashem. The neshama of a Yid comes from this place, yeah.
When someone converts, then how does that switch over?
Someone converts, how does it switch over? The Eibishter has a switch and he just switches over. In other words, something spiritually changes. The neshama and the guf.
So with the body, if the body doesn't come from the essence of Hashem, where does it come from? How can it not come from Hashem?
There she goes again.
You got some scotch downstairs.
Ultimately, everything comes from the essence of Hashem.
Right.
But it means to say that within we can't say that the physicality of the physical body was included in Hashem. But with the neshama, we can say that the soul, which is purely spiritual, chelek l'kami mal, it means Hashem blew it out of himself.
Right.
So of course everything is relative because ultimately everything comes from the essence of Hashem. But relatively speaking, the guf, we can't say what we say about the neshama, we can't say the same thing about the guf.
Okay, because it's physical.
Because it's physical and there was no physicality there before. The physicality only becomes created yesh mi'ayin once light of Hashem comes down here.
Okay, so Yesh Lahem has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Okay, where it comes from, where
Right.
the body comes. Okay, got it. So there's no connection.
Okay,
I'm with you.
so we'll go now to Dalet, right? Dalet, V'hinei. Now again, he goes to another difference between Torah and mitzvah. So the Maamar, the beautiful thing in the Maamar is it's showing a parallel between neshama and guf, Torah and mitzvahs, and going back and forth in drawing that parallel. So there's another thing about Torah and mitzvahs. Zeh she'achi of the kima mitzvahs Kol Yisrael Yesh Lahem. b'chiyuv to limit ateri yesh kama v'kama madregas. When it comes to mitzvahs, everybody has the same obligation. All men put on the same tefillin. All women light the same Shabbos candles. All men and women eat the same matzah and shake the same lulav and esrog. And what's with Torah? Torah is different. And again, this, what he's going to talk about now, applies only to men. Already you have a difference. Women aren't obligated to study Torah. When they study Torah, it's a mitzvah, but they don't have the obligation. And men, there's a difference. Everyone has a different kind of an obligation. The Yesh are those people who are not working and they have the time to sit and learn. Yesh Lahem Chelek, they have the time. There's a pasuk. We say this in davening. It's a pasuk in Yeshua. It says, which means you will toil in Torah, you will study day and night. What does day and night mean? Literally, by day and by night, as much as you can. So people who have the time are obligated to study all day and at night, except for the time that they need to take care of other personal things. But because they don't work and they don't have a job, and some reason or other they have an income some other way, so they have more time to learn, they have to learn more time. But people who have business or they have jobs, they are fulfilling their obligation of Torah study, and even the mitzvah of study day and night, just by learning one chapter of Torah in the morning and one chapter of Torah at night, and they fulfill the mitzvah. And if you're in between, you have more time, you're obligated to study 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. Where else do you have a mitzvah that the mitzvahs performed differently by everybody? Different. Only with Torah, no by mitzvahs. So this is connected to what we said before. Mitzvahs are Hashem's will. And Ratzon Hulamailim is Chalkos. The will of Hashem is something which there's no division, there's no parts. The will is infinite. The will is not finite. And therefore there's no parts to it. And it's the same for everyone. This one line has hundreds of Maamarim that talk about it in detail, what it means. But basically, the point is that the will, especially when we talk about a will that's above Chokhmah, when we say Hashem's will, let's put it this way. What are the difference between finite and infinite is finite is made up of parts, by definition. If you would say that a person has $1,000, really what you're saying is he has $1 and another dollar and another dollar. But if you would say that 1,000 times, people wouldn't have too much time to do anything else in life. Could you give me, instead of saying $1,000, I would say, could you give me $1 and another dollar, another dollar? And by the way, by the time you finish counting, they'll lose count and have to start all over again. And if you say $1 million, $10 million, $1 trillion, there's a small unit. And if you multiply that small unit so many times, you have the big unit. So $1 is really 100 pennies. And a penny also, there's a certain value that value so many times adds up to a penny, because we know there are businesses that run on a half a penny or a quarter of a penny. I once spoke to a man who was a mashgiach, which means he supervises companies. And he supervised a certain company, and they decided to change the ingredient. I think it was a potato chip company. And the new ingredient was not okay from kashrus point of view. So they had a dilemma. Should they keep their kashrus and not put in that new ingredient, or put in the ingredient and give up the kashrus, so it won't be available from Jews? What was the problem? The problem was that it was a difference in a quarter of a penny per unit. But with the volume that they were doing, it was a difference in $1 million a year. A quarter of a penny. So obviously a quarter of a penny also has value, because 4 quarters add up to 1 penny, and 100 pennies add up to $1. So basically anything that's finite, if it's finite in space, finite in time, it's made up of small units, and all these small units together add up. Believable, something that's infinite, has no beginning, has no end, has no middle. And that's why we use the circle as a symbol of infinity. And there are no parts. So with the Ratzon, with the will, there's no such thing as a half a Ratzon, a quarter of a will. It's either you do the will or you don't do the will. With things that like Chokhmah, it could be I understand it fully, I understand it partially, I understand it 3/4 of the way, I understand this deep, that deep, because to begin with, it's made up of parts. So I could have part of it, most of it, a little bit of it, too much of it. I mean, nothing, or close to almost everything, or close to almost nothing. Ratzon, it's either yes or no. So, for example, if Hashem would tell a person, I want you, the Navi comes, Hashem wants you to go to this city and to do A, B, and C. And the person goes to the city, but doesn't do A, B, and C. Would you say he fulfilled part of Hashem's will? No, he didn't fulfill Hashem's will. That's not what Hashem wanted. He wanted him to go there and do A, B, and C. If you didn't do it, there's no such thing as half of the will. You didn't fulfill what Hashem wanted you to do. And if you did A and B and didn't do C, you also didn't do what Hashem wanted you to do. It's not half. It's not something which is, this is what Hashem wanted. It's one unit. And if you didn't do it, you didn't do anything. So Rotzen is something which is not made up of parts. And therefore, it's the same for everybody. That's why it's with mitzvahs. The same tefillin, the same mezuzah, the same talis, the same matzah, and the same lulav and esrog. Torah, which is seichel, there are differences, and therefore every person studies Torah according to their intellectual capacity and according to their time as well. There's a sikha from the Rebbe. It's actually in one of the first volumes of the Rebbe's sikhas. It's a very powerful sikha, but I know we learned that sikha here in this class, and by the way, Hashgacha Pratis again, it's Pashas Ba'aleischa. The sikha is in Ba'aleischa. Just realized as I'm speaking. And what does the Rebbe talk about? That there are 7 candles. And why there are 7 candles? What do the candles represent? B'nai Yisrael. A neshama is compared to a candle. So why are there 7? It should be 1 candle. So the answer is because there are 7 categories amongst Yidden. There are Chesed Yidden, Gevura Yidden, and why are there different categories? Because we all have a different shlichus. So some neshamas came down to this world to reveal Hashem's Chesed. Some neshamas came down to this world to reveal Hashem's Gevura. And some came down to this world to reveal Hashem's Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, and so on. So we all have a different shlichus. If you translate that and not in Kabbalah words and simple words, some came down to do business, some came down to do Torah study, some came down to teach, some came down to learn themselves. Every person in this world has a shlichus, and therefore, like I remember hearing once somebody who I knew in yeshiva, that when I got married, and he asked the Rebbe, what should I do? Should I go into shlichus? Should I go into business? And the Rebbe gave him a reason and said, and therefore you should go into business. He was very surprised. But when the Rebbe tells him to go into business, he sees that this person's shlichus is business. And therefore, that's where he has to go. It's not that one is better than the other. For me, this is better because this is the purpose why my neshama is here. So how many shlichus are there in this world? Right, as many people there are, that's how many shlichus there are. Every person has their shlichus, which is different. On the other hand, how was the menorah made? Was it different pieces of gold soldered together, or was one solid piece of gold? Right, which means we're 7, but we're all 1. So when the Rebbe speaks about this point that everyone has their shlichus, the Rebbe brings out this amazing point. If I have a shlichus, even if I do amazing things, wonderful things, beautiful things, but if I don't do that particular thing, which is my shlichus, then I haven't fulfilled what Hashem sent me here for. It's not that I did half of it or a quarter of it. I did nothing. Because Ratzon has no parts. Well, this reminds of the story we just told about the Baal Shem Tov, that his shlichus was to reveal Chassidus in the world. And it was told, if you're not going to do that, then you have no purpose here in this world. And by the way, in terms of shlichus, it's not always one thing, it could be a few things. But anyway, it's not for us to worry about it. But whatever we know that that's my shlichus, we have to try our best to do what we can. But this is the point here, that there's two things about Torah. He only mentions one here. In other places, he mentions more things. How Torah has different levels. Number one, in terms of how much time to study, and also how to study. Like people who are more intellectually blessed, they're very deep minds, they can be yetzer Torah study by just studying superficially. Then they're expected to study and understand things deeper, like tzedakah. If someone has $1 million, he can't fulfill his obligation of tzedakah by giving the same thing that a person that has $100. He has to give according to his capacity. So the Torah study for each person is according to their capacity. That's in terms of intelligence, and the same is in terms of time. How much time I have, that's how much time I have to give for Torah study. And if not, I haven't fulfilled my obligation. When it comes to mitzvahs, there is the same for everybody because that's Hashem's Ratzon. Now, another difference between Torah and mitzvahs. I know this thing is not fully understood, but you understand it a little bit, right? And it's finite, so you got a little bit, you got part of it, right? Yesh Lahem Chelek. The same is when it comes to learning Torah and observing mitzvahs. Kima mitzvahs is b'chol Yisrael. When it comes to doing mitzvahs, every yid has part of it. What does that mean? The famous Gemara, that the Gemara says, Afilu Peshe Yisrael. Even those yidden who violate Torah, Maleyim mitzvahs karima, they're filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. You know the thing that a pomegranate has many seeds. How many seeds are there in pomegranate? 613 seeds. That's what the Gemara says. I told you this many times, that if you open a pomegranate and you count it, and there's more seeds or less seeds, it's a defected pomegranate. But the right pomegranate has 613 seeds. The Gemara says that this is connected to a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, which says that you are like Pelech Harima, you're like a pomegranate. Yidden are like a pomegranate. What does it mean? That just like a pomegranate has 613 seeds, that's how even someone who is totally empty, he's Peshe Yisrael, he violates Torah, is also full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Because there's a lot of things that people do that are mitzvahs, even though they're not even aware of it, and they're not doing it because it's a mitzvah, but they're doing things which are, remember, the Baal Shem Tov said, we learned about this when we were doing Hichotzu, that a neshama could come down to this world and go through a life of 70, 80 years, and the purpose of that neshama is this one time that it's going to meet someone and do them a favor. So imagine how amazing it is to do one favor to another person, begashmi sabaruchnis. So take people that are not keeping Torah mitzvahs, for example, but they're kind people and good people, and they're doing favors to people. So they are also filled with many mitzvahs, even though they're not doing it with that intention. And many other things, many other mitzvahs that are performed.
How could it be the whole life that you just jump, but not be the whole life?
How can it be what?
The whole life, you just be down one thing.
No, it means to say that obviously this person has to keep Shabbos and kashrus, and it's also part of it. But the main part of his shlichus is that one day he's going to meet Chaim Yankel and going to do him a favor, and Hashem sent my neshama down to do a favor to that neshama. And it was designated from above that these two people have to meet, and I'm the one that's supposed to help him for whatever reason known to Hashem. I think I told you the story once. I'll tell it again. Actually, just someone mentioned it to me yesterday. I'm not sure on the details, but I heard this from Rabbi Groner, and this happened, I think the first year the Rebbe was Rebbe. I think he said it would happen by a Fabrengen, that some college student happened to just wander into the Fabrengen. In those days, it was much smaller. And he walked in with a backpack on his back. And the Rebbe turned to him and asked him, "What's your name?" He said, "My name is Isaac." So he said, "Do you know who Isaac was?" So he said, "Yeah, Isaac was one of the forefathers." So the Rebbe said, "Do you know what Isaac did?" I have no idea. The Rebbe said, Isaac used to dig wells. Okay. Where's the Rebbe going with this? The Rebbe said, being that your name is Isaac, you also have to dig wells. Telling college students, go dig wells. What does that mean? So the Rebbe said to him, when you dig a well, you're not creating something new. The water is already there in the ground. What you're doing is you're removing the sand, you're removing the rocks, you're removing everything. When you remove things, the water comes up. Every yid has a reservoir of water in them, which is godliness. And all you have to do is remove whatever is blocking, and that'll come up. And that's what you have to do. Ask other Jews to put on tefillin. So he said, Rabbi, I don't put on tefillin. I'm going to tell other people to put on tefillin. And the Rebbe said to him, why do they have to suffer because you didn't put on tefillin yet? What is the meaning of these words? It means, even though everything looks random, but when you go out and you ask somebody on the street, would you like this like Shabbos candles? Believe it or not, this was arranged by Hashem, that your neshama should meet this neshama. And you're going to meet in this time and this moment because there's so many stories how people met, mamish b'ashgacha pratis, and you inspired them because to begin with, it was your neshama that was meant to inspire that neshama. And that neshama was meant to be inspired by you. So Hashem arranged that the two of you meet, and it happens. So the Rebbe is telling this person, that person out there needs to be inspired by you. Why should they suffer because you don't put on tefillin yet? You're the one that has to inspire them. Of course, when you talk like that to a person, he becomes inspired and he starts putting on the tefillin. But where is he now? I can't reveal everything. I'm imagining he's digging wells somewhere. I don't know. So the point here is that the reason why I'm saying this is that there is a shlichus, that this has to happen. It's the main purpose of the shlichus. Hashem arranges it in such a way. So therefore, it is possible for people to be filled with even those mitzvahs that have to do with Ahavas Yisrael in so many different ways. I heard there was once a certain Hasidic rabbi who came to the Rebbe, and he told the Rebbe, I don't understand this Gemara. Has the Gemara say that even Peishi Yisrael, by the way, when you talk about people who do Averas, there are different terms to use. Peishi is the lowest. They do Avera intentionally. Even Peishi Yisrael are filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. How could that be? And the Rebbe says, and I also had a question, but a reverse question. If they're filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate, why are they called Peishi Yisrael? His question was, how can they be filled with mitzvahs? And the Rebbe's question was, let's change the name, the title. He's not a Peishi Yisrael. He's a wonderful person. Wow. But by Torah, we don't say that every Jew has knowledge of Torah. There's no such thing. Every Jew has mitzvahs, that we can say. But every Jew has knowledge of Torah. That's not the case. Ki efshe, why? What's the difference? Being that we understand now that the mitzvahs are connected to the essence of Hashem, and Torah is connected to the light of Hashem. So when it comes to the light, where can there be something lacking? Where can there be an absence? In the Giluyim, in how much a Jew fails consciously in his connection to Hashem. But mitzvahs, being that that's Hashem's will, and that's connected to the guf, and the guf is from the essence of Hashem's choice. So when it comes to mitzvahs, that's b'chol Yisrael, that's by every year. So again, it's almost like a summary of everything said before, that when it comes to mitzvahs, they're connected to Hashem's will, not to Hashem's chokhmah. And that's connected to the guf, which Hashem chooses from his essence, not like he chooses the neshama. And that's the difference between mitzvahs and Torah. They're connected to the essence. And being that every yid is connected to the essence, every yid will end up having a connection to mitzvahs. Torah is connected to Hashem's light, Hashem's wisdom. That's something which some people have more, some people have less, some people are lacking. But in terms of the essence, every yid has that essence, and therefore every yid will have a connection to mitzvahs.
Possible that you come down and they're part of their shlichus is not.
I don't think we can say not learning. I mean, people that came down that never learned Torah, never became frum, you're saying? It must be possible because we see it's happening. And it's happening without, almost like without their choice. Like Hashem just made it happen, forced them into it. They were born without Torah mitzvahs. They lived a life without Torah mitzvahs. And we can't even say, no, it is their choice because they read in the newspaper that there is Judaism and they never took to it. But the fact that they didn't appreciate it was because that's the way they were educated. So in a sense, there must be a certain shlichus in that.
Right, so that's my question, the choice that I had before, is that, okay, I'm the only one in my family, 3 generations that it came from, so why, like, it's obviously not my free choice, somehow I was born with certain, like, proclivity to something, and I came to it, so, and all the other people did it, so what, that doesn't, so I didn't really have free choice to come from. So that's my question, like, sounds like we do have free choice, but we don't, even that.
No, at the end of the day, it was your choice. Did somebody hold a gun to your head? I think they held a gun to your head, they just drop it, not they should take it. Listen, it's also possible to think, for whatever reason known to Hashem, that these 3 generations were all there to bring you into the world so you could do what you're doing.
Right, but it just, I'm saying that's still not free choice. That's more like.
No, but at the end of the day,
pushed into it.
at the end of the day, you chose it willingly. At the end of the day, you chose it willingly, and that choice that you chose comes from your essence. From the essence which only a Yid has. So it's something deeper than, yes, there was a logical process that made you excited, that made you appreciate it. But deeper than that, there was the etzem that led to that logical process, that it should make sense to you, and not to your brother or your sister. If you look at the last page in the book, the page 32, I made a little chart. Please have a look at it. We'll do it tomorrow. And if you have anything to add to the chart, that would be helpful. It's basically the differences between Torah and mitzvahs, how they all come together. To be continued. So today we have a special program with Rabbi Hanoka, who's going to, does every year go through the kashrus symbols, what we could rely on, and so on. Okay. Oh, Rabbi Hanoka is here. Thank you. Chazaka.